Hello students, this video is about rational exponents. When I say rational exponents, I mean exponents that have a fraction in them like this. Now, when you see that fraction, you can actually rewrite it by pulling out that denominator and writing it as a root. The denominator is a root. Here I have a denominator of n. Here that n comes out and makes a root over the whole thing. The numerator is a power, and that will stay the same. So, for example, here I have x to the 4/3. I take that 3 and I pull it out front to make it a root. Then on the inside, I still have x to the 4th power. Here I have a to the 1.5. Before I can do this, I need to write 1.5 as a fraction. Now I can take that 2 in the denominator and pull it out and write it as a root. This root with a 2 out here is a square root. And actually, you don't even have to write this 2. If you see something like this example where there's no number out front, it's the same as this with a 2 in front. It's a square root. If there is no number in front of the square root, that means square root, okay, like a 2. And you can write that like to the 1/2 power with that 2 in the denominator. So here, this can be written with the 2 in the denominator. This is really 6a to the 4th times 1/2 to the 1/2 power. Put that 2 in the denominator. Well, 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now I can square each part. 6 squared is 36, and a squared is just a squared. So that's 36a squared. Here, I can take the 5 that's a root and pull it out and make the 5 into the denominator. Great. Okay, if the same radical, okay, if you have a radical and it's either multiplied or divided, you can actually split that radical up. For example, right here I have a times b, the square root of a times b. I can split that up to become square root of a times square root of b. Or, if the two are already separate, and I see that they match, I have the same square root on bottom and square root on top, I can combine those two to be one big square root of a divided by b. Okay, the next skill that I want you to learn for today is how to rewrite square roots to simplify them. If you're rewriting the number under the radical, in order to do this, you're going to rewrite the number under the radical in index form. How are you going to do that? By making a factor tree. So, 45, what times what is 45? That's 9 times 5. And 9 times 5. And 9 is 3 times 3. So, 45 really equals 3 times 3 times 5. 2 3s, so 3 squared times 5. And we're taking the square root of this. Instead of writing with the square root, you can think of this as, because it's going to be like a 2 here, you can write this to the 1/2 power. Now, if I distribute the 1/2 to the 3 and the 5, I have 3 to the 2 times 1/2 is just 1. 5 to the 1/2. Well, 3 to the 1/2 is, I just go ahead and put 3. But I'm going to go ahead and write this 5 to the 1/2, go ahead and put it back into a radical. Now let's break down 162 into its parts. This is equal to 2 times 81. 81 is 9 times 9. And each 9 is 3 times 3. So, that means we have 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 4 3s. And we're taking the square root. I don't see a number out here, so I can assume it's a 2 to the 1/2 power. When I distribute the 1/2, I have 2 to the 1/2. But then I have 3 to the 4 times 1/2. Half of 4 is 2. 3 squared is 9. And then I'm going to go ahead and write this uneven 1/2 back as a root. So the answer is 9 square root of 2.